Sure. No, I understand that. But the thing is the fact that you have to, you have the muted words and the blocked accounts and stuff like that, that you have to put in so much effort to curtail your timeline. At that point, people are just going to go, like, they're just not even going to bother putting in that effort. Most people are just going to delete the app and go somewhere else where it's, if there is somewhere else. I don't
Yes.
think Gab's going to replace it.
Do you think all the 4chan people will move to like Reddit or something?
I mean, there was a time when Reddit used to be like 4chan, when it was almost as bad. Um, and then the left took it over.
Yeah, I think what was I gonna say about yeah, I think Twitter is I I don't know. Yeah, scratch that thought. I apologize.
Send
Well,
all the
so
4chan people to Quora or something like that.
no, absolutely. But with the what is it with the sort of seed change that's happened, I really what I think it is, um, I think it's because posting existed. It was created in 2015 to get Trump into the White House, and it did. And then when Trump was removed from the White House, it was given a new lease on life to keep the fire alive until Trump came back and then get him in the White House a second time. And now that we have gotten him in the White House a second time, I think people are kind of, it's like, when a great crusade comes to an end, you've achieved your goal and it's like, okay, well, now what? And lots of people are kind of left pondering is like, well, what's my whole raison d'etre for posting in the first place? Most of what I complained about has been either is being addressed or, is not relevant anymore. And, when you have that kind of loss of momentum rather, especially when you get the big man who fixes, unfortunately, that's just how right wingers think, is they think in terms of get the big man in who fixes things. And, that can work. And with Trump, it seems to be, but the problem is when you lose that raison d'etre, it's like you want to go back to grilling. You want to go back to normal life, to normal hobbies, to not being politically involved in it. And unfortunately, I think that's the wrong response. I think that's a horrible response. I think even doubly so because this week a leftist wrote something about all of us that I think is very telling as to where they are right now mentally off of their defeat.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the question, one of the questions about this whole thing with 4chan is who did it and what was the purpose of it? Was it a left kind of movement who's fighting back against, Trump being elected? And, remember, they may not be saying this, but I mean, the last president of the United States said it, anyone who would even think to not only support Trump, but not call Trump a fascist is their enemy. They consider you to be the enemy. It's a very Zionist kind of idea where you can't just be, oh, well, I'm kind of neutral on Israel. No, you have to actually be, you have to be pro Zionist, or you're considered their enemy. Well, these leftists, whatever you want to call them, communists, socialists, insane progressives, they they're not going away, and we have some that are, actually openly and publicly saying, okay, well, these people who support Trump or, support his policies don't even have to support Trump. When do we start killing them? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And here's what I want to say to people too. This is a message to everyone who saw that and everyone who had their immediate reaction was, oh, this is a theater kid. Oh, if it came to it, you'd never know. The theater kids were the ones killing priests in Spain. These are the people who do this. Okay. You don't, the homosexuals, they're the ones who do it. Okay. They're the ones that get radicalized. They're the ones that have nothing to lose because they have nothing there's no legacy for them. If you don't take this seriously, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you're not part of anything I'm building, because these are the exact people who start this kind of thing. And these are the exact people who pull the trigger on old ladies and pull the trigger on priests and nuns and dig up nuns and disinter nuns and mock their bodies. And as I mentioned earlier, and Paul and I did an episode a couple of years ago, there is violence coming in this country. I don't think it's going to cover the whole nation, but there's going to be pockets of it and large pockets of it. And if you don't believe that, if you're looking around and you don't believe that, yeah, I don't really want to have any. I don't know that I can even, call you, comrade or friend.
I think it just comes down to the fundamental thing of never underestimate your enemy. Simple as that. They might be a pushover theater kid if they actually fight someone that's willing to fight back, but until that happens, they are the most dangerous threat.
Yeah. I mean, like, for me, something that I've been really frustrated with the last few years is a lot of people I know will use he's a weak little theater kid, or, oh, they're like, not going to fight us because of their soy lattes are going to run out. Then they'll like surrender or whatever the hell the weird boomer cope is. Like, there's plenty of other examples of, leftists basically saying we want to kill you and we're looking for the perfect opportunity to do it. And there's plenty of examples where they've actually like engaged in this behavior. And it's kind of one of those things where it's like, look, they're telling you what they want. They're telling you who they are. And you're sitting here like sticking your head in the sand saying, no, 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 no. And it's, it's like, that's how you end up as as part of the casualty figure of shit hitting the fan. Like,
do you morons think that just because that their anti-Second Amendment stuff thinks that they want to take guns away from no, they want to take your guns away. They want to use guns to kill you. All right. Like these weak theater kids can pull triggers and can be taught to shoot just as well as anything else. Right. In my 5 years of service in the National Guard, I have seen that you can teach just about anyone to shoot very quickly. It can be done in an afternoon. If you have the ammo for it, it can be done in an afternoon. It doesn't take a lot of ammo. All right. You can teach anyone to shoot. You can teach anyone to drive a tank. You can teach anyone to pilot a drone. What is missing is will, right? And the fact that, I look at this article and I look at this individual, right? Who looks like a complete winner, based on his profile. But you look at them and like, if you haven't been listening to the stuff Pete has been doing on the Spanish Civil War, you need to be. If you haven't been reading Mystery Grove's articles on the Russian Civil War and what led up to it, and the social milieu that was in Russia at the time and before the time, you need to do that, right? I know a lot of people meme on Mystery Grove. I get it. But though, read his friggin' Substack. Read the articles he writes, especially about the Russian Civil War and the Russian Revolution, right? It is extremely similar to today. The apathy, the mistrust, the media manipulation, the presence of certain groups of people, right? These are the people who, they were the commissars. There were Black American commissars in the Bolshevik army. There were Chinese commissars in the Bolshevik army. There were women commissars in the Bolshevik army. Read about what Nestor Makhno and the Black Army did in the Ukraine, if you want to turn your stomach inside out, right? These are the people like Mr. Decker here, right? These are the people who currently inhabit a country with you and have a moral imperative within themselves to kill you and to rape your children, to do all of these other horrible things to you. They believe that is their moral imperative. And if you believe it cannot happen here, if you believe that war can never touch this continent, it's touched it before. If you believe that civil unrest, that these people can't go out and God forbid organize, God forbid take over existing power structures that are friendly to them, because we have no power structures in the United States. We have no bureaucracies in the United States that are loyal to these people. Oh no, none at all. None of them we don't have people who carry guns who would happily turn them, whether it's out of apathy or out of genuine belief on us or other people like that. Oh no, the military is going to defect. Will it? Will it? Look at this. Look at this on the screen. Right? Look, you have to understand, just because we've gotten Trump in the White House and just because we've got a friendly administration, in Russia, there was I forget the name of the guy who was elected the reactionary prime minister who had this knee-jerk reaction. I think it was 10 years before the Russian Revolution. Through a bunch of special courts, he was able to very competently stop this revolution immediately. I don't think you all realize how the future that we were spared from by Trump having that last minute head turn in Butler. I don't think that's registered to people yet. Things just kind of go on as they have been. You go to work every day, you get your paycheck every week, there's food in the grocery stores, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you think that that's never going to end. And you think that nothing's going to be required of you, that you aren't going to have people come and threaten you, and that you don't have to be building things to prepare for that, building networks to prepare for that, indexing with people to prepare for that. I'm not saying that I'm not saying it's going to be, the apocalypse, but what I am saying is that, if you believe that, things are just going to be hunky dory, and that the leftists, are, these people who have castrated themselves chemically and have no future, or who are homosexuals of any variety, or who are, diehard communists and believe, hook, line, and sinker in everything that the communists have been putting into this country. And that's you could blame that on some other groups too. Since they moved their world headquarters to New York City in the 1890s, and if you don't believe that all of that isn't going to come to a culmination, isn't going to come to a fulfillment, then you're not in reality. Things are coming. The OGC and other organizations exist to prepare, but things are coming, and you must prepare.
If I may, what we'll probably see is just more Chazes. Everyone still can remember May of 2020, as we're coming up on 5 years of that, they might have been poorly organized. They might not have been armed the best, but they still shot at anybody that threatened them. How many people died because of Chaz?
It was a
15
color
people
revolution.
over 2 weeks?
There was a color revolution in this country, and people don't want to accept that.
I will respectfully, not necessarily disagree, but like the left does have organized groups like Antifa and Chaz and all that, but especially in like I know in the Senate, like Georgia, there's like armed black militia groups like I think it's the Not Fucking Around Coalition is what they call themselves. Like, in a shit hits the fan scenario, like if like the gloves really came off, those people would definitely go crazy.
Well, I was gonna say I've seen almost professional documentary grade 30 to 40 minute long videos on YouTube where they've interviewed the Socialist Rifle Association of Philadelphia, Socialist Rifle Association of Maryland chapters. They're, you may laugh that they're shooting in the desert and they can't hit anything to save their lives at 20 feet, but they're training. That should be the scary thing.
Also, people will, people on our side will be like, well, they won't come face to face. They won't do anything to you face. There's what's your defense from an ambush? What's your defense from you going to the store and someone walking up behind you and putting a bullet in you? what's your defense except to always, always be watching your six, and that's a hard way to fucking live. But I mean, if this kind of if they keep whipping up this kind of fervor going forward, then you may have to live with eyes in the back of your head if you're somebody who, is public, somebody whose, his name is out there.